everyone and welcome back to an interview with Mr. Rajesh Talwar. This is your host Ananya Sharma. So the book in discussion today is Kaash, Kashmir. So Rajesh, we understand that it is a play. So why a play and why specifically Kashmir?
Hi Ananya, it's good to be back with you and your team once again. And yes, it's a play, Kaash, Kashmir. And I wasn't so sure about writing a play on the subject because I thought that there are already plays on it. But when I looked around, I could not find anything. There was just one play, Kashmir, which was staged in Mumbai, where the actress Radhika Apte, she acted in it, but that script was not available. And so there is hardly any theatre on Kashmir, which is visible on the internet or talked about even otherwise. There is a fair amount of writing on the subject. In fact, there's a lot of writing on the subjects. There are hundreds of books on Kashmir, and there is a fair amount of cinema on the subject. But there were two reasons I decided to write this play. One was there's hardly any plays on the subject, and the second is that although there has been a lot of cinema, the cinema has focused on issues in Kashmir other than the issue on which this play focuses. This play is focused on the situation of the Kashmiri Pandit. It discusses Kashmir as a whole, but it talks about the Kashmiri Pandit in particular. And I think this is long overdue. Such a major tragedy has happened to the Kashmiri Pandits, and it's so little spoken about. The Pandits themselves have spoken as much as they could, but their voice is not being heard. And the narrative in cinema is all focused on army atrocities within the country. The narrative does not speak of the tragedy that befell hundreds of thousands of Kashmiri Pandits in early 1990. So I believe this kind of a play, it throws up an important narrative, discusses Kashmir as a whole, but it discusses the situation within the context of Kashmiri Pandits. Kashmiri Pandits are center stage in this play. Kaash, of course, refers to if only, and Kaash Kashmir suggests that Kashmir, there are so many if onlys. If only Pandit Nehru had been more practical and less of a dreamy idealist. If only Sardar Patel had been put in charge of sorting out the Kashmir issue like he sorted out the rest of the states that made up the Indian Union. If only in 1948 we hadn't given over or allowed the Pakistanis to take a large part of Kashmir, which is today goes by the name of Pakistani occupied Kashmir. If only in 1971 when we won the war we had prevailed upon the Pakistanis to accept a settlement that would have created peace and enduring peace in Kashmir. There are so many if onlys. There's so much Kaash. There's an Urdu saying, पल में खता हुई सदियों ने सजा पाई. The mistake was made in a moment. That fatal mistake was made in a moment, and centuries have suffered the consequences. And that is the case of Kashmir, today's Kashmir. And so I think Kaash, Kashmir is a very appropriate title.
Can you tell us a general storyline of the play?
Well, the opening scene shows a situation where there is a Kashmiri Pandit boy, Rohan, is sitting with a Kashmiri Muslim girl, Ayesha, and he professes his undying love to Ayesha. It's a very romantic and tender scene between two very young people. So the focus is on this Kashmiri Pandit family that is living next to the Shahs, a Muslim family, a Kashmiri Muslim family. Their friendship, the friendship between the children, and the love that is blossoming between a young Kashmiri Pandit boy and a Muslim Kashmiri girl. Soon after this is a happy setting. The families are both very happy. They send over things like neighbours do during festivals. If it's Eid, the Shahs will send over something. If it's Ram Navami, the Pandits will send over something to the Shahs. It's just a typical Indian neighbourhood. Two large houses, beautiful houses. But soon after this, some events take place which force that Kashmiri Pandit family to leave Srinagar. What are those terrible events? So I describe them. What were the circumstances under which the Pandit families had to leave Kashmir? Who were threatened? Who was killed? And the scene shifts to a very dark and sinister setup where the masjids in Srinagar are being used to threaten the Kashmiri Pandits. There is planning across the border. Benazir Bhutto is instructed the army that we need to throw the Pandits out, and we have to use all devices available at us. The newspapers in Srinagar, they're taking out big advertisements in which they are warning the Pandits that they have to leave. And a particular fateful night, there are threats issued. The Kashmiris are told, the Kashmiri Pandits are told, we are going to rape your daughters. Leave your daughters behind. We will convert Kashmir into Pakistan, but we want to have your women as our concubines. And if you don't leave, we are going to enter your homes and we are going to rape them. Before this terrible incident, which forces the Rohan's family to leave Srinagar, there is a build-up. And Rohan's father is very concerned. There's a build-up. Kashmiri Pandits have been massacred. They are being massacred. And this family then, they have to leave Srinagar, their beautiful house in Srinagar, and go and live in a refugee camp in Jammu. And then they go to another refugee camp. So it talks about their struggles, their difficulties, how the family rehabilitates itself. Rohan decides to join the army. He joins the Indian Army, and after some years of service, 10 years after the exodus, he is sent back to Srinagar as an Indian Army officer. So it's a very dramatic setting, and but the setting has been engineered in such a way as to bring the whole Kashmir situation alive, and to show what was the suffering, what were the tortures inflicted on the poor Pandit family. The Kashmiri Pandits were not supported by our own government. They are living as refugees till this date in their own country. There has been no support. So I think from a theatre point of view, the issues are very poignant. And there are lots of questions which will be there in the viewer's mind. When Rohan returns to Srinagar, what will happen? What has happened to Ayesha? Will he meet her? Will their love be rekindled? What do the Shahs feel about what happened to the Pandit family? How will Rohan assume his new role as checking counter-terrorism in the Kashmir Valley? So a lot of things are discussed, including, for example, the all-important question, should the valley remain with India? And I put forward very clear and convincing arguments why it should.
So you've just said that you think that the Kashmir Valley should stay in India, with India. Why is it that you think that way?
Ananya, there are many reasons why I strongly believe that the movement in Kashmir is delegitimate. In fact, it's fair to say this is what Mr. Shah, a Muslim professor in the play, he tells his son, his misguided son. He tells him, the movement for freedom of Kashmir lost all legitimacy the day the Pandits were asked to leave. And the son says, why? He says, well, if a leadership shows that it's not going to treat the minorities properly, it has no right to create a nation. It has no right to think that it can create a nation. And this has happened to Kashmiri Pandits today. What Kashmiriyat meant Kashmiriyat, a particular culture, has slowly been destroyed not because of the Indians but because of the efforts of the Pakistanis. For example, the Kashmiri Muslim, he used to live in a relatively free way. He was open-minded. But now what has happened? There are disputes between Sunnis and Shias. There is a kind of radicalization, an Islamic radicalization which is taking place in Srinagar because money is being poured in from Pakistan, has been poured in over decades to try and radicalize them. And the Shias in Kashmir, and there are a fair amount of Shias, they are worried. The Shias have no fear of remaining in India. There's a narrative which is being thrown up, which is not properly countered by the Indian media. I should say the Indian media has been very irresponsible. So it's yesterday it was the Kashmiri Pandits, in the future it will be the Shias. Shias are being targeted. And Shah says, do you know, he tells his son, do you know your mother is a Shia? And do you know that she feels unsafe at what's happening in the valley? There are Pakistani academics who see this also. For example, Parvez Putboy, a Pakistani academic, he says what Pakistan has done in Kashmir, in Indian Kashmir, is terrible. What they have done is they have tried to Talibanize the place. They have tried to introduce radical Islam. They have tried to introduce practices that are forcing Kashmiri Muslim women to start using the veil all over again. They have reignited disputes between Sunnis and Shias. And India is a place where minorities have felt secure. If Kashmir, the way Kashmir is changing, the future minorities cannot be secure. And in any case, Kashmir threw in its lot with India in 1948 when the king of Kashmir, he signed the instrument of accession. So there's no doubt in my mind that the best interests of Kashmir will be served if they continue to remain in India, apart from the legalities of the issues. Let me say one more thing. For example, in India there's a lot of talk about Ayodhya, and certainly the destruction of the Babri Masjid is something which I would not support, which no right-thinking person would support. But we need to see the larger context. In India, since independence, has there been a single case of a mosque being destroyed, with the exception of the Babri Masjid? Something which is regrettable? Not to my knowledge. But there have been numerous incidents. Lots of temples have been razed to the ground in Srinagar, areas around Srinagar. Temples have been vandalized, temples have been destroyed in the valley and adjoining regions. Why should we be so cavalier about this? Forget what's happened to temples in India by extremist Muslim fundamentalists in the Kashmir valleys, neighboring areas, but in Pakistan itself, mosques keep getting destroyed. And it's not that mosques get destroyed alone. Mosques are bombed. On an average, every 3 months, there's a mosque, a Shia mosque in Pakistan, which is bombed. I think the Shikarpur incident is very well known. A Shia mosque was bombed. 100 people died. By some estimates, there were several hundred who were injured. So in Pakistan, it's not safe. Sunnis go around hunting for Shias to kill. So we need to see India and Pakistan in a broader context. So minorities in any case will not be safe.